تفضل يا عم
No,
تفضل.
not at all, not at all. But listen, I do insist on one thing.
ايوه
Call me Mo.
ما اوكي
Okay, هذه لو قلت عمي هقول لك
باي باي and leave.
call me Mo.
Okay, Mo.
I'm proud of you, first of all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's very weird calling you Mo.
Get used to it.
Give us first of all, this is an English heavy podcast. We can throw in كم كلمة عربي, but it's an English based
حلو.
podcast. First of all, give us 1 minute introduction on who you are.
Oof. First thing I'd want to start off with is that I'm a father of 3. I'm a husband to my wife Sarah of 10 years, and son, brother, a friend to a handful of people. Used to be a lot more people. Now it's gotten less.
Yeah,
You'll find out with time it's quality over quantity in many things.
I guess, yeah.
And I stumbled into this world of podcasting after failing at everything I've tried in life. Till eventually they took me in the family business, and you probably know which one. So I worked there for 13 years, started to do a good job, decent job, but I always felt that I could do a little bit more. And then COVID came around, and I watched an episode of Rogan, and he had someone who, what he was saying was making me realize that there's a lot more to life than what I was doing.
Yeah.
With all due respect to people who do those jobs, but I just didn't feel it was me. I didn't feel like it was the reason that God put me on this earth for. And I might have been the first time I tasted what depression feels like. And is this going to be my job for the rest of my life? Processing invoices and going through contracts and doing something that isn't, for me, with my name. So just like you, 3.5 years ago, I called up a friend. I bought some equipment online, and in the same office of my day job on the weekend, I went with permission, obviously, and I shot the first 3 episodes, and I published all 3. And 3.5 years later, which is today, I do it full time.
Yeah, mashallah. So 100 something thousand followers on Instagram.
Something like that, yeah.
How we've done some background research about you. How was it leaving the family-led business after 13 years?
Scary. Scary. Despite having 3 sponsors at the time, I was still like, what am I doing? Is this something that I can support my family on? But I'll tell you a story that happened in August of 2023. I got a call from the Ministry of Media, and they asked if I can join the Crown Prince at G20 to be part of his media delegation.
MashaAllah.
And after I made sure that the phone call wasn't a prank and it was real, that's when I realized that the time has come to put 2 feet in this venture and give it my undivided attention. Because if the government is telling me to join the Crown Prince on a media delegation at the G20, what am I doing not doing this thing full time?
Yeah.
So that was the moment when I called up my uncle and I said,
Yeah, I'm out of here.
but a bit more politically correct than that.
Yeah.
I said, remember when I told you 3.5 years ago if I can shoot episodes in the office, the first couple of episodes? And he told me, yes, as long as it doesn't distract you from the job. And I said, the moment it does, you'll be the first to know. So I said, you remember that conversation we had 3 years ago? He said, yes, but the time has come where I'm unable to give the job my 100%. And he's like, I would have told you that your time has come. Go and do what you do best, because clearly that is where your passion and where your heart is. And those are 2 words you might hear me say a lot during this conversation. Passion, heart. If you work on something with your heart and you're passionate about it, I swear to you, it will not feel like work. And if you are able to be consistent in that, be consistent in doing what you do with passion and heart, you will eventually make a living out of it.
Eventually, inshallah.
It's been said to me, like, it only ends one way if you're consistent. That's my advice to you right from the get-go. Not that you asked for it, but I'm going to tell it to you.
Thank you. طيب, as a father and as a podcaster, it's quite light-hearted interview. I wanted to just throw in a question. Do you have any stories, or what's your favorite story from your podcast about any interviewee that you've had?
Well, let the people who are watching know that I haven't seen any questions, and I prefer it that way actually, or else I would have asked you, can I see the questions?
Yeah, I would. I was gonna send it to you, but I wanted to.
It's best to keep it as natural as possible, right? Favorite moment of the podcast?
Yeah, favorite moment or favorite story or something that you've had.
There's two that I can think of. The first one was messaging Princess Rima on Instagram and her responding 2 hours later,
MashaAllah.
saying, yes, I'd be happy to do your podcast. And I didn't think it was real until somebody called me from Washington, head of her PR, and said, further to your conversation with Princess Rima yesterday, I would like to know a little bit more about your show. And I was like, oh, wow, this is real.
Yeah, so.
So shoot your shot, you know? That was an amazing moment for me. That was like the first, I have something, you know, this is real. Obviously, everything Prince Abdulaziz did for me twice in coming on the show, that was some crazy validation that I cannot discredit. He was the person that put me on the map before Princess Rima. So I will forever be indebted to him. But on a selfish level, my conversation with Anas Bukhash, who I messaged his team, and 3 hours later he came and we shot for 2 hours. It's one of my favorite episodes because, selfishly of me to say, all my questions related to him was regarding what he's built and the industry and the do's and don'ts, and I think he's the best podcaster, and he doesn't call himself a podcaster, but I think he's the best in what we do in the MENA region. So just to have a conversation with him, to hear his story, and for me to get inspiration from that, was also a very surreal moment.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a few there.
Yeah. Do you have any funniest stories? Quick.
Yeah, actually I do have a funny story.
Okay.
But most likely you guys would be laughing at me.
Okay.
After we shot the first episode, I thought it went really well. We checked the cameras, perfect, all three, amazing. Checked the audio, my guest perfect. Checked mine, microphone was off.
Oh, sorry.
So that was definitely a welcome to the industry, humbling moment for me.
And that's why you told us to
double check the
double
audio
check the
3 and
audio.
4 times, and I'm so happy every time I look at your guy with the headphones who's nodding away. I know that the audio is working. But Shuf, yes, I tripped at the first hurdle, but I think it's very important to get hit, because you'll be able to judge your character on how quickly you're able to get up and go again. I could have easily said, you know what, man, it's just not for me. It's not for me. Like, I mean, the audio didn't work on my first one, and it really hurt, by the way. Guests came in the next day, we shot, and now, even until today, we shot an episode 3 days ago, I'm triple checking the audio.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just in the back of your mind.
It's back of your mind. Hurdles happen, cameras have cut, lights went out, electricity went out in the house during it all happened. But as Jim Carrey says, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. You go through these hard battles and punches, but it's to make you stronger and mold you to the person who's capable of entering this industry that isn't an easy one.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you asked me funny moments. I'm gonna answer a question that you didn't ask. What was one of your hardest moments? Imagine someone who's big in the game comes to you in Saudi, and you spend 3 days with him. You take him, you like hospitality 101. You take care of him fully, like you name it. And then on the third day when you're about to shoot, person's like, I'm not gonna shoot.
Oh wow, that sucks.
I was like, come on, man. He's like, no, I'm not gonna shoot. Any reason why? I'm just
Not on my A game.
no, it wasn't even that. It was for an excuse that I would rather not mention, but the excuse wasn't valid because you knew of X months ago and not today. So that wasn't the reason why. It's a difficult industry. You're going to get punched. And I was very, very upset for the next 2-3 weeks. But I'm stronger today than before it.
Of course.
Life happens for you, not to you. To you is the victim mentality. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm me and my luck. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. But over time, if you persevere and be consistent, you'll be stronger than ever in doing what you love, that you're passionate about, with most likely your name on the door.
Yeah.
So that was my answer to my question.
So have you changed your life around since you left your main job?
Yes.
In what ways?
I don't use an alarm clock anymore.
Okay, mashallah.
Yeah.
So it's much calmer.
Much calmer.
I do know that we work out with the same trainer. Shout out to Gareth.
Gareth, yes. Gareth G.
Did he play an instrumental role into helping you enter this like Zen lifestyle? Is it more or less a
He
Zen?
helped me a lot in getting my mind right to work harder, that eventually led me to leave a very unhappy situation that I was in to do this. He was there from day one. I mean, you know, when you work out, you know, adrenaline is pumping and you know, you're saying things that you wouldn't say if you're sitting on the couch having coffee.
Yeah, of course.
So this guy, if anyone was going to write a book about me one day, not to say that a book should ever be written about me, but it would be Gareth, because the stuff that he's heard come out of my mouth is probably more than my wife has ever heard me complain, you know, which is a good thing. So he heard it from the beginning. He heard the idea, the concept, thinking of starting a podcast. And he gave me some advice that I'll never forget. Some really, really good advice. He said, don't come to me and tell me that you've tried if you haven't been doing it for 5 years.
That's a long time.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Things take time. Tim Ferriss said, there is a huge graveyard of podcasters who have shows that are 6 episodes or below.
That's a lot.
And if you have made over 6 episodes, you have achieved what only 8% of the podcasters who are active have achieved.
Wow, that's not a lot of podcasters.
Nothing. It's nothing. Just to cross 6, you're in a group of the 92nd percentile.
Yeah.
It's insane. Consistency. Be at it. With consistency, you get better, your guests get better, sponsors come, equipment gets better, everything goes upwards. Nothing gets worse from being consistent. Nothing. In anything.
Okay, so 5-10 years ago, if you went back and you told yourself something, what would you tell yourself?
That nobody was thinking of you when you were worried that people were thinking about you. We're so worried about what would people say about us, what are people thinking about us. Nobody was ever thinking of you to begin with. I would say, and which would segue me into saying, stop giving people so much attention on whether you should do that thing. Do it, and give less attention to potential critics or critics.
Yeah, of course.
Because for every critic, you'll have a fan. And more often than not, if you focus on the product, your fans that'll keep you going will far outweigh your critics. So to be a little less fearless, I would say, and more courageous. I wish, Ahmed, and it's a bad way to think of it. Like, I started it when I started it and whatever. But if I started it in 2018 and not 2020, where it'll be today. And it's just a fun exercise to think about when thinking that that's 2 extra years of consistency. Where would I be?
Yeah.
It's the only thing I've ever been consistent. I'm not known for anything else. All right. Does he need to pass? I'm not known for anything else because I've never been consistent in anything else.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but in 3.5 years, to publish an episode every 11.5 days over 3.5 years, I mean, that is the only reason why the show became successful today.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Question: why 2018, not 17, not 19?
Just 2 years extra. You know, not 1, not 3, just 2 years extra, which means that I'd be entering year 6 now, where I'd be.
Much more, of course, experienced and much more
Yeah,
well known.
I mean, with when you start doing everything yourself. Everything yourself. With time, get your team. The team gets better. People drop off. You hire people. People reach out to you. Your network expands. Easier to get guests. The beginning, it's like, who are you? No, what? English podcast? Get out of here.
Yeah.
تكلم عربي هنا. You know, but there is a need for English to come out of Saudi today more than ever. We have Expo 2030 confirmed, World Cup 2034, and there's a whole lot of Winter Olympics in 27. And there's a whole, I don't know if you saw this chart of the events that happen in Riyadh between September and May.
I haven't seen
There
it.
is not an empty weekend, to the point that during the week there are events that are happening.
That's kind of
Everything down to steel conventions, plastic conventions, not plastic, we're trying to get rid of that. The last one actually was, there was a convention on, you know how the Riyadh, we don't get it so much here, but sandstorms, ghubar.
Yeah, of course.
There was a convention as to how do we combat or reduce the likelihood of sandstorms in Saudi. And I don't know, 30, 40 countries attended that.
That's a lot of countries.
Saudi's initiation.
Yeah.
Outside of the Olympics and the World Cups and all that, like Riyadh has become a haven for these conferences and conventions. And guess what language these conferences are happening in? In English.
Yeah, in English.
You know? So I think there is a need for a lot more content in English to come out of Saudi, which makes me so happy to see you embark on this. And not just English. French is widely spoken amongst the Saudis. Getting the message out in French, in Spanish, because let's admit it, for the past 20 years, Saudi was something, and today it's something else.
Yeah, of course.
Today it's open to the world. For the past, through my growing up years, I was born in '83. The '90s and 2000s were nothing like what you guys see today.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
2 different countries.
Yeah. So you started your podcast in 2020. You started your podcast, you were maybe one of the first people to do their own podcast, especially in English.
Yeah.
2020, the time of changing. That's when Saudi started to move its gears and start to move. In what ways were you benefited and hit on benefited and reduced in your podcast because you started in that time?
Can you elaborate a little bit on, do you mean like personal benefits?
Not, it's about your podcast.
Yeah.
So I know that you started the podcast
yeah.
in 2020,
2020, yeah.
right? So what were the pros and cons of starting it in 2020? Looking back, what was good and what was bad about the fact that you started in 2020?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps off the page is that you just made me realize that COVID started in March 2020, and I started it in the middle of COVID. I mean, I knew that, but now I'm actually really thinking that, wow, it was done in COVID. I think that was challenging a little bit. From a logistical perspective, it wasn't like a normal year.
Yeah.
To move around. I don't think even domestic planes were open then. Ordering parts from abroad wasn't coming as quick. For starting it then was way more challenging than starting it today, in terms of reach, logistics, travel. But you know what? I don't think all of that mattered, because all the information that I needed was available online. I probably watched over 100 YouTube clips of how to start a podcast. What the hell is podcasting? Like the ins and outs.
Yeah.
You know, not the finished product, but everything that leads to the start of it. The equipment. I did a masterclass online. And then I realized that there is no book to follow. Everyone has their own way, their own style of conversating. And I look at some of the early content today, and I see how in my head I was and how nervous I was. And today I'm just a lot more confident and just more comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
I used to be very bothered by negative comments online. I don't think there's a comment that I would delete today. Unless you're going to swear at my country, I don't need that. You know? Be respectful. Swear at me.
Yeah.
Say, Mohammed, you know, you really don't know how to have a conversation.
Yeah, of course.
Great, I'll take that on the chin.
Yeah.
But other than that, it just made me more resilient and confident because I have 100+ iterations of it. And you do something 100 times, you're going to be better than someone who's done it once, and however good he did it isn't going to be as good as you doing it 100 times.
Yeah.
Be consistent.
Of course. So, question. Who is your most famous guest?
My most famous guest?
Yes.
Oof. There's a few.
Okay.
There's a few in there. Royal Highness Princess Rima for sure. Prince Abdul Aziz, Khalid bin al-Walid. I don't mention him enough. Khalid bin al-Walid, you know,
Yeah, of course.
vegan, Walid bin Talal's son. He came on twice. He was amazing. He was really, really amazing. We had Hassan Jamil on a few months ago. We had Sihs, the big bodybuilder eater.
Sihs came on.
Sihs came
we
on.
were actually looking to bring him in.
People, I'll reach out to him for you. People were surprised as to how good his English was. His English was more American than mine. And then he told me his story. He grew up in the East Coast US. He lived there for a bunch of years. Who else? I'm blanking.
We had Nada Baishan.
We've had Nada Baishan. We've had Hayya Sawan, which was great. We had Princess Lamia bint Majid. We even non-Saudis. We've had Paris Vera, who's a social media influencer / travel photographer. We've had who was our 90th? Sada Efferi was a great episode, 75. She was with Ministry of Investment. She now has her own firm. She graduated from Oxford University in biotech and stuff I can't even pronounce. We've Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, you've had a lot of
The
guests.
consistency got us to that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's much harder to tell someone, can you come on my show when you have 6 episodes? But when you put a 0 next to the 6, most likely they would have heard of you, they would have seen you, they would feel comfortable to put their name on that.
Yeah, and I
So,
appreciate you coming when we have 0 episodes.
my honor, my pleasure. There are things that people did for me when I had nothing. And they told me, make sure you give back. I mean, I would have given back anyway. But I'll never forget people that did things for me when I was. I'm Khalid Ma'ina, media mogul. He came on, he was my 18th episode. You know, we didn't do anything. He put his name on it because he believed and he wanted to empower. I'll never forget what he did. I'm Khalid Ma'ina. He was editor-in-chief of Arab News, and now he's editor-in-chief of Al-Bilad newspaper. And there isn't a person in Saudi that doesn't, or in the MENA region or beyond, that doesn't know Khalid al-Ma'ina and how synonymous that name is with everything media related.
So at one point you were in our position. Now we're starting very slowly, of course. Maybe there's a difference that at your time there weren't as many podcasts, and now there are many. What's one piece of advice that you'd give us to any podcaster?
One piece of advice to give you
or any other podcaster?
Any other podcaster? Don't focus on the views and the likes and the subscribes. I could never see myself saying like and subscribe. Focus on yourself. Get better. Determine your message and what it is that you want the identity of your show to be. try to get 1% better every episode, and put your heart and soul into every episode you shoot. The guest, I fall in love with my guests when I get them on, and when we're working on it in post-production. Like I really want it to be as good as possible from my eyes, that when I give them the episode for them to watch,
They love it.
they're like, go. And 8 or 9 times out of 10, they're like, go. You know? So focus on yourself, get 1% better every time, and once you publish an episode, never look back. Focus on the next one. Don't look back, because that's going to take energy away from the next one. Get 1% better every day. Build yourself. There is no get-rich-quick schemes. Rome was not built in a day. Whether it's wealth, whether it's prominence, whether it's influence, these things take time. Remember that the story of the race between the roadrunner and the turtle, or the rabbit and the turtle?
Yes.
I think the turtle ends up winning.
Yes.
And that's where the saying slow and steady wins the race. Now, don't be slow and steady in your work, but be slow and steady with delaying your gratifications, which means don't be so into how many views did we get? How many? That's going to come. It's going to come. It took us 2 years to get 10,000 views on an episode.
That's a long time. And then
Okay.
it's been what, 4 years?
We're coming up to 4 years in September.
And now what's your highest?
Now we
views?
get 10,000 views in the first 24 hours.
MashaAllah, yeah.
But just to show you, like, this is not me boasting at all. This is me telling you the effects of consistency and what that did to the platform.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
2 years until the first one got 10,000. It was Paris Vera's episode. When we saw 10, we were like, oh my God, the K is there, you know? And 2 years later, whenever we drop an episode, we're seeing that 10K in the first 24 to 30 hours.
You're seeing hundreds of thousands. And
But just that 10 that took 2 years for a episode to hit, we're now getting it on any in the first day.
yeah, and of course you're interviewing also, it's not like you're interviewing anyone, you're interviewing high profile people too. So it's
Not all of them. No, we get people on that no one's ever heard of.
that's true.
And hopefully that'll always be the case. You know, it's we want to give a voice to people from all walks of life. Amazing to get someone heavy on. Great. Does a lot of good for our platform. It's a needle mover. But how about the story that not many people have heard of? You know, of a Saudi girl riding her bicycle and doing a loop of Iceland, for example.
Yeah.
You know, like, why doesn't her story, you know, be deserving of it to be told?
Yeah, of course.
And that's the void that, you know, I'm trying to fill for us.
I don't know if I should tell you this. I think you guys are gonna have to bleep it out in post-production.
Do it.
We do have a
For doing something that'll be a TikTok sensation.
yeah, of course.
That's the way I see it.
yeah.
Maybe because I'm 40, you know?
The hair's
And
still black.
and the hair, yeah. I need to see my barber. For in short, I mean, I get it. People want to make a name for themselves, and sometimes the quickest way to do that is to do something ridiculous.
yeah, of course.
And if I was 18, knowing my 18-year-old self, I'd probably do it. So I think it's a timeline thing for me.
Yeah,
I'm
of
at a
course.
stage right now where maybe my conversations are more sophisticated than they ever were.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I've seen your podcast. Of course, I've enjoyed it. I've loved it. If you could take, I know I've watched your podcast, and I know that if you were asked if you could get one more person, you said you'd get Mohammed Salman. Am I correct? Other than that, if you could pick one person, anyone in the world to interview, who would you interview?
With these questions, there is selfish and then there's unselfish.
The number one answer, either selfish or unselfish. It's whatever comes to mind first.
For the platform, it'll be Cristiano.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
After 2 years of being in Saudi, let's stop going on Piers Morgan. Let's have a conversation here, and let's talk about your experience and what you want to do after football, and how Saudi was like in comparison to what you thought it was like going into it. For the platform. For myself, it'll be someone like Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan, who are the masters of the space, because I want to pick their brains on a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And it'll be a nice full circle moment for me, because these are the two people that I looked up to starting off, and purely to pick up something that I can incorporate in my quest to better myself and the show. Up and coming podcaster like yourself messaged me on LinkedIn, and it was noticed by someone who said, Mo, you might want to respond to this guy and think about going on his show. So I saw the message and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll do it. Just starting off. You know, I've had a lot done for me when I was just starting off, and I'm always going to give back.
Yeah, of course.
And I agreed to, I messaged him and I was like, let me know when and where, and you know, we'll shoot the episode. And 12 hours later, I got a message from someone who I was pursuing for 8 months. He's a hip-hop rap artist. Hip-hop rap? He's a music artist, let's say. Fasting. And the message I got from this person was way more than I bargained for.
As in good or as in?
As in great. Like, I wanted to do X. He's like,
XYZ.
let's do XYZ. 12 hours after I told this guy on LinkedIn that I'd come on his show. Just starting off. I don't have anything to gain from it, but I wanted to give back. And then came to me what I wanted.
Yeah.
So you tell me whether karma is real or not.
I can't.
Well, the answer is yes.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So as a podcaster, former businessman, sorry, what position were you in?
Yeah, I was a marketing, VP marketing.
Okay, VP of marketing. How was the transition like? I know that you started your podcast while you were working, and slowly, how was the lifestyle change? I know that you're a father of 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was the change in interactions with your kids, lifestyle? How much, for example, how much you work out, how much how was that from becoming your self-employed person?
The first 2 months, I rebelled. I wasn't disciplined. I gained a lot of weight. I was sleeping late. The only good thing was that I was spending more time at home with my kids. And it was a difficult transition to go from being told where to be and for how long and what to wear.
Tell yourself, yeah.
To tell yourself. And then on the many podcasts that I do watch, I heard a line that I will never forget from Patrick Bet-David. And he said, if you aren't disciplined with yourself, someone else will be.
Okay, that's...
I was like, wow, okay, so I left. And now I work for myself. But if I'm not disciplined with myself on this, who's to say that I don't end up back there? Or in another company? Yeah. Or in another environment where...
You don't enjoy it.
I did it for the longest time, and I was very unhappy doing it. But I did it because I didn't have another option. But it wasn't me. Some people are okay sitting at a desk for 9 hours. It's not me. And I, dare I say, got used to something that wasn't me. So I thought to myself, what a scary picture, that if I don't give this my all, and now, you know, the floaters aren't there. There's no guardrails. It's you and your wings. You either go up or you go down. I started being more disciplined. I started giving myself a time when I sleep, when I wake up, when I work out. But really, like, the most thing that jumps off the page, to go back to your question, is that I have the freedom to do what I want, when I want. And the biggest advantage of that is spending more time with my children.
Yeah.
Especially, we've had twins come into the picture a year and a half ago.
MashaAllah.
So I mean, to be out of the house, 10 hours a day, it's a big portion of their life that you're not there.
Yeah.
But I get to wake up and spend time with them. And then I go down to my studio and I do 3 hours of work uninterrupted. There's always something that needs to be done. There is never a time when you're thinking, there's actually nothing to do now.
Okay. Yeah.
And if that's the case, then something is wrong.
Okay. Do you feel like it's a full-time job, or it's more of like you're a retired man with a side gig?
It depends how much you want to delegate. More and more, especially this year, I've noticed that there's so much truth to the old saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And I don't want to delegate, and I don't want someone else to do it, because I'm so passionate about it. And all I want to do is this. And I don't want to link any other business to this, because then the podcast takes a hit. Like, that's all I want to do. I want to do this undividedly. I want to be known as, the voice of English from Saudi. And that's all I want to do. And already my plate is full with the podcast and my family.
Yeah,
Like, I don't need anything else on the plate. So as much as I can, without micromanaging, I have a show manager, I have an editor. It's a 3-person job.
yeah,
And for me, the way I see it, it's a full-time job. Because, believe it or not, time to yourself, to read, to do nothing, is also something that I want to be doing. So, family, podcast, and time for myself.
yeah, of course.
It time for myself helps the product, helps me become better at what I do.
So it's like rest for an athlete.
Absolutely. Some would argue the content has gotten better after I left my job, because I just had less to deal with.
Yeah, less stress.
I didn't have to deal with customers or accounts or the 50-minute commute or the 200 people that at any point of the day, one of 200 people will knock on your door just so they can drink a cup of tea with you for absolutely no reason. And it breaks your train of thought for at least the next couple of hours.
Yeah, of course.
So that's no longer something I have to deal with. But it took 13 years to claw my way out of that, to be in a position where I can now. Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do so you can do what you want to do.
Yeah, of course. Speaking about podcasts, I'm guessing you definitely have, and I want to get your opinions on, I don't know if you've hired any. Have you gotten any? I know you've gotten offers for sponsors, of course. Have you accepted any of them? And what are your opinions on people who do and don't accept them?
Sponsors?
Sponsors.
I mean, they will eventually fund the show. I mean, you can only go out of pocket for so much time,
Yeah, of course.
until eventually working with a sponsor or two will fund the show. So we're fortunate enough to have 5 sponsors right now, and just for them to put their brand on my podcast, it just gives so much validation, and every day I see their logo, I'm like, these people believe in me.
And it kind of, as a viewer, when I'm seeing a podcast, it's backed by a big company that I know, that shows that, wow, it's legit.
Correct. Yeah. We've been approached by networks, but for as long as I can, I want to keep doing this independently with sponsors who help us in funding the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you have 5 consistent sponsors?
Yeah. So contracts that go from 1 year to 3 years. The first one that came on board was Caffeine Lab, the local coffee brand over here. Excellent cup of coffee. We worked with them for a year. And then Tim Hortons came and replaced them. Not long after, Pizza Hut knocked on the door, and they were our second sponsor. And after that, Saudi Airlines came on, and they're our third. And we're about to announce in a few days officially Lay's chips as our fourth, and then IWC, the famous watch brand.
MashaAllah, they're your current
They are our watch partners.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. So consistency, that's all I've done. Consistency. Maybe I got better, maybe I didn't, but the podcast grew, and these brands thought that it's worthwhile to put their name, you know, on the show.
Yeah, of course.
So lucky me.
Look at you. Do you consider yourself? Do you place most of your success based on luck, effort, time, or
A little bit of both.
a little bit of?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mix.
Yeah, for sure. Effort, for sure. I mean, I think that was the door opener. The effort I put into it. Maybe a little bit of courage to put something out there. What are people going to say? You know, people's judgments. So when you asked in the beginning, what would you tell yourself of 5 years ago? Is that nobody cares. No one's thinking about you. So might as well, you know, do what you want to do. In 100 years from now, anyone who you're worried about as their opinion, or any opinions you're worried about, these people are going to be long gone, and it'll just be unnecessary stress for you to worry about what people are thinking about you. Let people talk about you. The only thing worse than people talking about you is people not talking about you. You know? So that's what I told myself. That's what I would have told myself. And luck. I'm lucky because the country is opening up more and more. The need for English is more and more. These events that I'm fortunate enough to moderate or MC or speak at, because they want someone who is Saudi who speak English. That's luck. I got lucky there.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So luck, effort, time you put in, and consistency. Take a month or two off and not publish anything, hadi marfuda. You go into the graveyard of a podcast that nobody cares about. Just get that content out there consistently, once every week, once every 10 days, once every 2 weeks. Show up.
Yeah. If you could say one phrase or one thing to everyone in the world, what would you tell everyone?
You have less time than you think. Kobe Bryant.
Actually, it's quite ironic coming from someone who spent 13 years, mashallah, finding themselves. So do you think that you should have taken that 13 years, or do you think that you should have left earlier?
No, I think I needed to be there for as long as I needed to be there for. Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, a very good situation.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the 2 months of rebelling that I did, I went through a lot of hardships in those 13 years. That it molded me to be a stronger person today, and I had to take those punches so I can shield myself today of those punches that I see coming.
Yeah.
I think when I entered the company in 2010, I didn't know much. I was an idiot. Not to say I'm not today, but I think I've learned a lot from that. That I am more street smart. I'm more aware. My Arabic has improved. I stand up for myself more than I ever did, and if I have a problem with someone, I don't mind confrontation, and all those things I didn't have going in.
Yeah.
Standing up for yourself and not taking shit from people, excuse my French,
And of course,
is
that's
something
blurred out.
that I want you to learn from the beginning, because people will only respect you if you respect yourself. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I didn't stand up for myself, and I wasn't respected by a particular someone within the organization, and only when I stood up for myself did everything change. So don't fall into the trap that I fell into.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
for attending
An
our
honor.
podcast. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me as your first guest.
Thank you.